Okay, hi everybody. This is Helena.
Kelly.
And we've got the lovely Penny with us. And what I'm actually going to do, we'll say hello properly to Penny and ask her all sorts of questions in a little while. But we are Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a business on your terms. And the whole point about this is that we really want to support those of you who want to make a big difference out in the world to actually make the connections that you want to do. So Kelly's busy actually sharing things out and connecting into the Connection Hub, into Changemaker Central. If you're not a member in the Connection Hub, please do come and join us. She'll put a link for that in there. Penny's probably doing the same into the Business Cafe Global and everything else. So you're left with me just saying, hi, welcome, get your pens, your papers, because today is going to be a corker. We
not a corker in the sunshine because it's sort of died down.
It's very true.
40 degree heat.
It is really true. But it's going to be a corker in terms of, Kelly and I, our top value is connection, and we're now talking to Penny, who basically is the connection queen. So yeah, we're well, settle in for a cup of tea is all I can say.
Amy's really glad that she's actually here joining us in person.
Good morning, Amy.
Over the pond again. It's morning for Amy where she is.
Yeah, good morning, Amy. Welcome back. I know that you've been missing kind of your Tuesday morning treat with us. So for those of you who are doing the hashtag replay, put hashtag replay in. Remember to ask your questions, even though you're not watching it live. Tag all three of us. We will actually make sure that we answer that and ensure that you just know a little bit more about connection. Now, before we go into that, let's talk about the buzz in your business. So, Amy, feel free, tap away. What's the buzz in your business? And anybody else who has joined us already.
I haven't seen who they are.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So, whoever you are, what's the buzz in your business? What's actually going on that's of interest? Things that you've done, things that are coming up. What's special that you are currently talking about in your business? For us, we have a Connect and Create Day coming up. So, for those of you who haven't been to one, we've got 4 spaces left.
No, we haven't. We've got 3. Another one's
got 3 spaces left. This just in, it's off the press. And a Connect and Create Day really is where members in the Connection Hub, speakers, authors, and coaches, just like you, are actually able to meet in person and not only connect and share what they're up to in the world, but then also just get their heads down and actually create and do stuff. Work on your business, which a lot of us don't actually stop to do because we're constantly on that treadmill. So please do come. The other thing that you get is a 20-minute session with either Kelly or I. Our eyes on your I was going to say our eyes on your stuff. Like, if you just want my eyes on your stuff and you want a slap from Kelly, come to the Connect and Create Day. That's obviously how it works.
Amy's recording her courses for online modules so she can sell on her website.
Good job.
Nice work.
Really good job. And so the other thing that that we've got going on is we just came back off of the retreat, and my word,
it was full on.
It really was. 6 people who now have just exploded their businesses and their lives, and to awesome feedback as always. And I don't think we've ever laughed this much.
We did work our stomach muscles that weekend. But the people that came, we had some people that came with no business and they walked away with a complete framework and IP. And we had some people that have been in business for quite a few years, but what they did is they really refined their marketing plans, their avatar, so that their stuff they were doing actually really converted. So.
Yeah, it was all about leverage for 2 or 3 of them. And so if it is of interest to you, then please do come. The laughter and the food just make the business building even better is all I can say. That's probably the biggest memory I've got of it.
And Daniel, you're asking to book on the CNC day, and the link's in the comments below, but I'm just going to tell you that as well in the comment, but I just put the link in, just scroll down.
Fantastic. The one other thing that we did, for those of you who get our newsletter, we're really talking about benchmarking. It is July, well, it was July the 1st yesterday, but how is it July?
How are we in this quarter, right? How is it halfway through the year?
I know. And so have you got your sights set on what this quarter is going to bring for you? What's the project that you're actually doing this quarter? We're always going to challenge people to think about that. So that's kind of a little bit about the buzz in our business. That's me probably having blurbed enough for lots of people to come on here so that I can ask Penny, what's the buzz in your business? And then we'll actually talk to you properly.
Then we'll introduce you.
I know. What?
So the buzz in my business, define buzz for me.
Exciting news, projects, things that you want to tell us about. We do it, Penny, so that we want our speakers, authors and coaches, when they're out networking, rather than people go, how's life? And they just go, yeah, it's all right. They actually want to actually talk about something that gets the interest, that goes, oh my God, you've got this going on. What's that, right?
It's just exciting and interesting.
So my buzz, 3 things I would say. Mastermind groups going very well. I'm recruiting now for my 2nd cohort, which starts in September. So that's where we find and support people with skills to really help them amplify and build that business around them that you talked about, because that is what holds people back. But also it's about their mind and limiting, ways they may have limited themselves. I'm doing a TEDx this Saturday.
Nice.
With
my daughter Hannah.
Yay!
So that's going to be phenomenal. Actually, I'm quite excited. It is high pressure, even if you're a professional speaker. TEDx, there's something different about the dynamic of doing that. And then the next thing is, and I can't say much, but I think I'm very close to realizing my dream around the business cafe.
That's really exciting.
So, but,
that's like one of those openings that you want to ask for.
That's an intrigue frame that we're not going to actually do our best to open up, but we might talk to you in a little while.
offline,
as we do, which is really rather good.
And is your book still on 99p?
Oh, yeah, that's a buzz, isn't it? That's a buzz. Yeah. So this is really interesting subjects. I'm sure many of your community are have books, don't they?
Yes, authors, many of them. Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's a big cathartic. It's almost like a colonic for the brain when you actually write a book. It's brilliant. And I think you probably know, I'm not a huge hustler. I'm uncomfortable with that. And so the publisher constantly was saying to me, you do the 99p book thing. And I was thinking, why? And obviously you get to say you're a bestseller because enough of your friends that adore you and like you and support you and care for you will download the book. At the moment, I don't feel comfortable saying I'm a bestseller, even though I am in 3 categories, because basically what I feel is I've got a lot of friends that have been lovely and amazing support through the Facebook community and LinkedIn community that we have, which is amazing. But now the feedback's coming back from people that did actually read it. And
that's the thing, the reviews that happen on, in my opinion, Penny, because we've done training on how to make your book bestseller, and it's pretty easy to get your book as an Amazon bestseller. As I say, it's just about timing it and having the amount of people that buy it. It's really freaking hard to get yourself as a Sunday Times bestseller or a New York Times bestseller, right? That's a massive achievement.
That's pinnacle.
But the thing that I think that actually gives it credibility is the reviews. Because then the ones that actually people have read the book and they've said what they've got from it, and that's where you get the insight. So I do think you should own the bestseller status, because whether it's been your friends, the way that you do business, Penny, is that everyone's your friend anyway, whether they're clients or not. So that's the fact. That's what this Facebook Live is all about. Is business is personal. So yes, they might have done it to help you out, but we know that they would have got stuff from reading that book. So own that as a status. As you know, you're one of my speakers. By having bestseller in your bio already increases the fee price of your speaking. So just the fact that you claim that, and it's also the fact that you put that effort in to launching it, to doing things like 99p week, that takes a lot of marketing and effort. So why should you not actually claim that status from putting
No, I get what you're saying. And I think the joy for anybody who's put a lot of effort into anything is the validation of the feedback. And obviously you've reached, I've had a lot more feedback from people, which has bonded me to people that I had never spoken to in the past, which is very gorgeous.
And I think that is part of the purpose of a book, is that you actually do reach in via something like this, whether it's on a Kindle or whether it's in your hands in this way. You do actually reach out to a whole bunch of people that you may never have ever reached before. So sort of good on you. And it just fits straight into the whole connection queen thing that we were saying earlier on, as we've now dubbed you. So Penny Power OBE, you are, in our eyes, a super connector, and in fact are recognized for that, because with the history that you have, and I'm sure you'll hear more of that as we ask our questions, but founding Ecademy and actually getting 650,000 plus members is just phenomenal. And so knowing a little bit about the truth about running a business, which is also based in the personal, we couldn't wait to actually kind of have you share some of the things,
juicy stuff, right? Some of the insights,
because actually doing business in a way that has a heartfelt connection is such a sweet spot for you. And we definitely, it aligns with how we want all speakers, authors and coaches to really impact in the world. There is no need to hustle, as you say.
We want to get away from that, the whole spammy, hustly.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be that way to be successful.
So here we are with you, and we're delighted. So welcome.
So picking up on what Helena was saying, so structure and connection are our highest value. So this is why this is something that's really personal to us, and we do want to help change the way that people feel that they need to market and do business. And because we've been following you for many years and we know you personally, and obviously the recent developments you've had over the last year, we're so happy you're stepping into this space and being a torchbearer to do it this way, because you're so authentic in that. But I think one of the things when you're talking about connection is the trust element. So you, as we said, you're the connection queen, and you've built connections in so many different parts, whether it's partnerships, whether it's clients, whether it's sponsorships, all those big things. How would you say, what are the best ways for our speakers, authors and coaches to build that trust, or even have the key learnings of maybe when you've done it wrong and messed stuff up? What advice would you give on building connections, building trust with new partners, new clients, new relationships?
So it has to start, it's very cliche, but it has to start with you being very comfortable with yourself. If you're hiding yourself, and if you're trying to be a persona that isn't you, then life's always going to be quite challenging. And I think there is a danger that the internet has created that sort of sense that we need to be bigger than we are. And also, actually, that can happen to people when they move out of corporate and they use this corporate brand and the word we, all the time. And you see networking and they say, well, we do this and we do that. And when you say to them, who's we? It's
me and my laptop.
Yeah.
And one of the things I talk about in my book is small is beautiful. And the reason is that we build trust at an individual level. Very hard to build trust with a logo. But if you don't trust yourself, and this is what happened to me, there's a lot of things that was the catalyst for me breaking. But part of it was the roads I had gone down, where I had chosen to do business or go into investment situations in companies with people that were distrustful, their values and other things. I lost trust in myself because I lost trust in my ability to sense whether I could trust someone.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that made me have to step back, because so it really does start with the true permission to respect, accept, and like yourself for who you are.
Nice.
And I think
that's what one of the things, isn't it? When you see speakers, especially when they're on stage and they're this big grand persona, and then when you meet them in person, they're nothing like that at all. And then you think, well, hang on a minute, why are you having to be that person on stage when that isn't really you? Yeah. And sometimes you just can't put your finger on something, can you?
It's an incongruency that just kind of feels icky almost, or disconnected in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of our, with the rise of consciousness that we all have, and I don't just mean reading spiritual books, I mean just our whole ability to connect and judge things. People see through the bullshit ever so quickly now. And so the joy of a real person is just wonderful. And so I think connecting becomes stressful if you don't feel comfortable with yourself. And I don't think we all do feel comfortable with ourselves. I think it's interesting, I said I'm doing a TED talk, and I'm sort of planning, it's with Hannah, and we're writing the talk quite deeply, because it's got to be sort of scripted, hasn't it? When you
so precise.
brings back all my fears of standing up in front of nuns at school and reciting a poem.
It's really interesting because, you know, one of the things I say so much of the time is new level, new devil. So even if we're experienced in an aspect of our worlds, when we put that in a new context, all of that surfacing can actually surface. And as you say, I think being comfortable with yourself, or being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and knowing that you can trust yourself even in that situation where you don't necessarily have certainty, you don't necessarily have clarity, and you don't necessarily even have the confidence around what am I supposed to be doing here, but you trust yourself to actually bring all that you are to it, that actually kind of carries you through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I think the thing you were saying, Penny, around about, you know, being, especially networking, so we have a lot of, and I get shocked at how many speakers, authors and coaches are introverts. I mean, I'm massively one of them, right? And I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was out networking, I used to be that person you were describing that was the chameleon. So I would adapt all the time to who I was with because I didn't really know myself. I didn't trust myself. I didn't have that core groundedness, and that's energy draining.
Yeah.
And you become forgettable because you're just like, oh, that was that person that was not memorable, not really making a big impact.
Yeah.
So the key elements is really that
standing for something.
Yeah, but just know, as you said, knowing yourself, but also having that intention.
Yeah.
I think the purpose and the intention piece is really key, because I think that also helps you trust the relationships, as you were saying. If you're just chasing the money and actually you're doing it for the wrong reasons, even though it's got benefit in it, that's when you start going, am I doing it for the right reasons?
And so I, because we could be here for a long time, so I'm going to do my best, as I always do, to just rein us in and see what we can do. So one of the things that we love about you and is this openness that you actually have. And when I saw you, and I've just realized that it was in January. In January, I saw you at Authorcraft launching this beautiful book, which is a really good, and I say it's an easy read, and I mean that in it's enjoyable and you can't put it down way, that really goes in at many levels. And it's one of those books that you could just open up and actually do a page and just go, okay, I could do that today. And so it's brilliantly done. So you launched this at Authorcraft in January, and one of the things that I really loved about that is that we know that business can be a roller coaster. One of the reasons that we set up Speaker Insight is to be able to put the foundations into people's businesses. But you know quite a bit. You've definitely have some distinct kind of highs and lows. So would you be willing to tell us a little bit about those and how you use those experiences to actually connect with your audience?
So that's sort of in two parts. So the highs and lows is that, you know, I never wanted to be anybody particularly extraordinary. In fact, you know, one of the things that I often say when I listen to a parent who's got a child who's highly talented in sport, or highly talented in music, or highly talented as a singer, or anybody that's got extreme talents, I think it's an extremely scary world to go into, because it becomes your focus. And you know, I was very comfortable, age 32, with my 3 children, and my average career, you know, I'd been sales and marketing director of a fairly large company, an £80 million company, stopped to have the children. I was loving supporting my husband and being a mummy. And the Ecademy moment was what I call my accidental entrepreneur moment, where I came up with an idea which didn't exist, which, without repeating stuff boringly, obviously it predated LinkedIn by 4 years. So it was the first social network for business. But it was very much started with heartfelt intent. It was about the trueness of how do we connect people as friends, reduce loneliness, and help people to build a brand around who they are globally and break down those boundaries. And obviously, as an accidental entrepreneur, which I think a lot of people find themselves going forward with something, it's like a tiger by the tail. And I didn't start with business skills. You know, I had business skills as a sales and marketing director of a company of 400 staff that I was very good at managing, and I understood my sector, which was the IT sector. I didn't understand business as in owning a business.
No. And all the different hats and all of that.
Well, it's all that, but it's also the mindset for it. And identifying what your personal mindset is for it, because I don't think there is a cookie cutter for what business model and what business is right for everybody. You have to really understand yourself to know what business is right for you. I immediately delegated the opportunity to lead it as a CEO because I knew that I would let everyone down. I'd let my children down, and I would let the business down if I was trying to be CEO. So my role was a very ambiguous role, as a sort of was the community manager, the builder of the culture. But I did let go of the business side of it, which meant I never really acquired the business skills for the 14 years that we ran Ecademy. I didn't have time for it. My capacity, my cup was full.
Yeah.
What became very obvious to me is that I did build a skill, and I did build social capital. I built a following. I built a brand. It was really took me about 16 years. So I would say to about 2014, 15 to actually start to begin the process of learning how to be a business person.
Wow.
Wow.
And it was a good level of success in those 14, 15 years.
Right?
Yeah. I wasn't running the business. Remember? Yeah. So, okay, I was a major shareholder, and I suppose between Thomas and I, we did grow the community and love it and build it across and build a lot of trust. I didn't run the business. I never looked at a P&L really. I never looked at a cash flow statement. I didn't learn the disciplines of business. And what I feel now is that caused me lots of ups and downs. Ecademy was a big up and a big down on an hour by hour basis. We bet our life on it, and the emotion of I'm going to be living under Waterloo Bridge to God, we're going to be millionaires literally shifted by the hour. I mean, it was literally the biggest day-to-day roller coaster. So I think in a way I did learn to manage stress.
Adrenaline, stress, everything, right?
I did. Now, there's no secrets, is that we did lose the business. We lost our house, but at the same time, we had a huge amount of personal traumas going on. So we were in massive scarcity ourselves, Thomas and I, and we didn't want to go out as victims to our social network, so to speak, the people that we had built relationships with, that we maintained on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and say, we are over, we're finished. But inside us, we were broken. And it did result in me having a mental health problem and Thomas getting cancer. And without doubt, the wearing down process, but also it limited our beliefs in ourselves, and it limited our beliefs in the art of the possible. And so this is where the healing process of life is very, very important. So I mentioned earlier that I knew I had a skill, and I would say that every single business person I meet has a skill. I would call it a primary skill.
Nice.
Yeah? They've got a primary skill, and that is what's given them the confidence to start their small business and gives them confidence to support their clients. But wrapped around it are all our secondary skills.
Yeah.
And those are, how do I manage finance? How do I forecast? How do I, even set up a bank account, for God's sake? How do I use Xero?
Yeah.
How do I use Facebook? How the hell do I set up a Facebook Live on Zoom and share it into a group? I mean, every single day, every day, I learn something new about technology.
Yeah.
And I would say all of those things are my secondary skills. They're not the primary skill I have.
Yeah.
I would say delivering my primary skill of being somebody who loves business, motivates business, and can pretty quickly do an audit and support somebody through into growth. That's my primary skill. My secondary skills are all this stuff that we have to learn, and it's unbelievable. So so these are the ups and downs, and it's coping with the overwhelming feeling of I'm not enough. Something that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. Now, I grew up believing I wasn't enough anyway, so it's quite easy for me to adopt that attitude within my as many of people in my generation, the baby boomer generation, brought up by what's called the silent generation. I don't know whether you've ever heard that, but the silent generation are the ones that, very dutiful, very hardworking, but
don't say a thing,
don't get praised,
don't speak, don't praise, don't show emotions. And so what I hadn't realized with the loss of Ecademy, this incredible workload, the loss of self-worth, the challenging 8 house moves in 10 years, putting stuff in and out of storage, you know, and then working every day. And then on top of that, my mum had dementia, which unfortunately too many of us have to deal with that. But I was quite close to that situation with my father. I was the one that lived nearest. And I was in a family situation that could support the easiest. My brother got cancer and died of pancreatic cancer. My sister lost her daughter to cancer. And then, as some of you know, my beautiful daughter was abducted by 3 men and raped. And all of that was going on whilst I was assuming that I could don't say anything. And actually something that was very dangerously taught to me, which I talk about in my book, which was a way of managing my mind. When I went to an osteopath who had done some course on NLP, when he said to me, "Why have you got so much stress on your shoulders?" And I told him, and he said, "Do you like feeling that way?" And I said, "Oh, no, I don't." And he said, "Well, then don't." I thought, well, me, that's easy.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not going to feel this way. So not only was I brought up by the silent generation and no shh, I was also brought up. Now layer onto that and a layer of, I've just been tested on some of this psychometric tested. If you're balanced, you're 50%. So you don't want to be either way on this test. I was 95% conscientious. My sense of duty to others and people,
and to over deliver and to
high. I can't let anyone down. And so I did break, and that's ultimately, I would say, was my biggest up, not my down.
Yes, when in that, the beauty of hindsight actually is, because our bodies, our souls kind of give us the break that we need, that actually allows us to emerge into something different and something better.
The hitting the rock bottom, isn't it? Or the pressure that makes the diamonds, which we all say. But God, the fact that you went through so much. I've heard the story so many times. So every time
it still touches.
But I also think, how are you even here with all of that going on? Right?
But we love that you are.
That's a relief.
So, and I know we've spoken about this before, Penny, but just as a little side note on this, because I've heard you talk and I really love your interpretation. We know that entrepreneurs are going to have this roller coaster, but give me your spin on resilience, because I know that this is a thing of yours, and I think this is really going to help people.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the badges that we're expected to have as business owners is to be highly, highly resilient. And I don't know whether many people, I didn't understand what that meant. I thought resilience meant you can hit me as hard as you bloody want and I'm not going to fall.
That's right.
But, you know, what I learned through the therapy that I went through and through finally accepting and respecting myself and understanding my personal vulnerabilities was that the person with the most resilience is like the best boxer in the ring. They can dodge.
Okay. Yeah.
They know how to dodge the blows. I don't think in business we should just accept the blows. And when we're working with the mastermind people, you know, we go through a process of the onion layer. You know, let's all share in this very private group to begin with. Let's get to know each other. And undoubtedly, the stories in the room, there's no one who hasn't experienced quite awesome adversity. And I think my story's average. Compared to people I'm listening to, my story is pathetic. You know, I think some people, it's incredible what they go through. And they've just kept taking the blows. And some of this is down to, you know, when you're in scarcity, you have to. Some of it is stuff that we've just not been willing to open up to accepting has happened in our past. Yeah. And one of the very powerful things that I did with the psychologist was I listed within a 5-minute period sitting on her doorstep after a session, the 12 things that were still in my head that were not relevant to my future.
That's beautiful.
Let it go.
It's a great little exercise to do.
But they were in my head all the time. Now, what that meant was when I was waking up in the morning, this cup wasn't empty, which it needed. Right. It was already quite full. And so it didn't take much for it to overflow. And how it was showing itself as overflow was overwhelm, feeling out of control, defensiveness, I got used to rejection. I didn't even bother to battle with the rejection from people. When I was looking for investors for the business cafe, I just ticked it off. I look back at some of those people that were rejecting me. I should have just gone back in the room and been more confident, but I just was breaking without realizing it. So I think the thing that we have to understand is that we do start to limit ourselves as business people. We limit ourselves by the secondary skills, by the ability that we're not willing to learn some stuff or delegate some stuff, or we don't know what we should be doing. Yeah. And that's quite an interesting process that we go through when I work with the clients now. But also we limit our dreams. And I did that. I actually put on hold the business cafe, which I think all of the community know. I couldn't take it anymore. I thought, this is my third entrepreneurial venture. My other two haven't gone as well as they should. And certainly working hard isn't enough. Right. Something else is wrong. And so, and I honestly contemplated retraining as a midwife because, oh boy, would I love to give birth to babies. But what I love to do is help people give birth to their business lives.
Business babies, yeah.
Babies. So
I like the combo.
I really did have to heal. And what's weird is that I opened up with this buzz around the fact that I might have the business cafe, is that has come to me through pure universal energy now, which it sounds a bit deep.
But it's you showing up authentically in what you want to do as well. And that's the thing, going right back to the beginning. When you're doing what you're meant to do, using your primary skill, things just come to you.
And people get the authenticity and people start to follow because they actually go, I recognize that, I resonate with that, I want some of that, and I want to hang around that. And that's the job, isn't it? Just to show up in that way, for all the being an expert in a digital field, being an expert in the networking space, whether it's online, offline, it really is about the personal. So what are your tips on just things that people forget or are afraid to do? What can people do to actually make business more personal?
So let me answer the first tip I'd like to say, which isn't necessarily about personal, but it is really important. I think that vast numbers of business people I talk to now are completely in scarcity in their mindset. And I know what that feels like, and I've been there. And
do you mean it from a monetary point of view, that their business isn't cash flowing, or
they're holding on? Yeah, they're holding. It's cash flow, but they're coveting every part of their business. They're scared to delegate because they don't think they can afford to bring the skills in. They're scared to try new things because they don't know whether they'll work, and they've tried and they've experimented. They're scared to invest in themselves. And that's something I had to go through, because when I talk about being in scarcity, Thomas and I were £2.5 million in debt personally. And it took us 10 years of hard work, paying off £250,000 a year, to get us out of that. And we weren't going to declare bankruptcy. At the same time, have 3 kids at school, private schools, and all the hell that we had around us. I know what it feels like to say, I can't afford something.
God, yeah.
Right, I really do. And I had to shift that mental attitude. Last year, when I was going through what I was going through and reassessing things, I knew that I had to invest in my skills, my mindset, myself, to be able to then come out and build a business. And the reason I'm becoming really aware of this is you sell programs, and I bet people use the I can't afford it, I'd love to do it, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
I get it all the time. I want to do your mastermind, I can't afford it. And it triggers me into really wanting these people to be helped, because they won't get out of the situation they're in. It's that definition of madness. If you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the result. So in terms of your question, business is personal, I talk about the money mindset in there. I talk about my money monster. And the thing that we have in our business is personal life, is that business becomes so personal to us, is that we don't know whether it's where to keep it. So I had to say, we're going to have to invest in a business. And I made sure that my business took the load of that investment. I organized an overdraft in the business because Thomas and I decided there was no longer going to be a money monster snacking away at our mattress under our bed every night, worrying.
Or your house being up, you just don't know, right?
And there are ways to finance business through business overdrafts and all sorts of things. And I don't think people explore it enough. And that's a personal thing. Business is personal, has so many connotations to it. It came from the fact that I once said at a speech about how business is personal to me, and how an investor had said to me one day, I don't have to like you, Penny. It's just business. It's not personal. And I looked at her and I thought, it's so personal to me. It's all my impact I want to have in the world. It's all the way I feed my family. It's all my energy and passion. It is so personal. And at that point, I wish I had held my space with that investor.
Yeah.
Now, it took me a while to learn that, and I had to positively surrender from that experience to them for get back control. And the control trigger for me was, how do I get back control of the life and business I want? Was when a beautiful man called Russell Butcher, who was working with me in Digital Youth Academy, said that he had noticed my happiness waning. He said, you're always such a positive person. You always seem so happy, but I'm noticing you not as happy as a person. And he was operations director of Digital Youth Academy. And he told me that he had seen an interview with world leaders talk about happiness. And they'd done this study into happiness. And there were three things that make up happiness. Your constitution, 50% is how happy are you?
Right.
So I would say that most of us are happy. You've been giggling away. Most of us wake up with the intention of having a happy day. Not many of us anchor ourselves to, I want to be an unhappy person. So let's assume happiness is one of the things. 10% is the achievement of things we want. Now, ambition is a curse, as Luke Johnson says, and therefore the things we want will always move. I find I have to every day remind myself of the things I've achieved, because I always want more.
Yeah, then you can tick off those small. I love ticking stuff off, right? No matter how small they are, I love it.
Absolutely, I have to. And Thomas and I are going to take August off together and travel through France. And one of the things is a big review of how far we've come, because we're always, it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. That's how the ambition is a curse piss. The 40%, and this is the big one, is how much control you have over your life and decisions you make in it.
It's massive.
Wow.
And really that's why business is personal, because knowing the customers you want to work with, the impact you want to have, the way you want to run your business, the formula you want to run it within, and always using it as a mantra. Every day I see something I should be doing. Oh God, I should be doing something online, or I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. And then I ask myself, what is the life and business I want to run and lead? And
that's exactly, when we talk about, helping speakers, authors and coaches to build a business on your terms, that it's that exact thing that we're talking about. It's about, we talk about the cookie cutter as well. It really is about saying, how do you want it? And how does it then help you impact and change more?
That definition that you just said, it just landed for me. For me, having the control over those and making choices, that is the definition of freedom for me.
Yeah.
So loads of people define freedom as other stuff, but actually, if you've got the choice and you love what you do, you might choose to work, right? So therefore, that is freedom.
Well, it's really funny, because I always used to have like a real thing about the word freedom, until I realized that actually freedom for me, it isn't freedom, it's choice.
Right.
And that control is always about, what can I put in place that allows me to have choice, that allows, you talked about the art of possibility earlier. What allows me the art of possibility? It's the ability to have choice, and the control, the foundations that you've got in place give us that in your terms.
I just want to pick up on something you were saying that Andrea's picked up on here in her comments, Penny. It's difficult when you're in debt to others to find a way to invest in yourself, personal values and long-held beliefs. So I get that when you feel like you've got that debt, and then there's something that comes up as an opportunity that could upskill you or give you that, how do you then wrestle with that? Oh, I should be paying this person back, but also
there's this other thing. Yeah.
So I know that feeling, and that's a brilliant question to have asked, Andrea. So I would ask anybody that says to me, have they ever created a cash flow that shows going forward into the following into the year ahead their financial situation. So that means the income they're expecting by product and service, the cost, the fixed costs in their business, and the variable costs.
Yeah.
And if those debts are some of their fixed costs, have it in there and just see how you're paying it off. But what that does is that your bank balance, which is the bit at the top that will change. So you start off with your bank balance and you add all that in, and then you see what your starting bank balance will be the next month. If it's not changing, then there's something wrong, right? Now, your debt will be a fixed cost in your business. At some point, you've got to be able to put in a cost of investment in yourself.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, honestly, you're not gonna get out of it. You're not gonna get out of it. When you see the numbers clearly in front of you, it also forces you to realize what you need to sell.
Because then it gives you a target, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it does give you a target, but you start to look at. So I've been talking to someone who's spending £1,500 a month at the moment on PR, but isn't generating any leads, right? So they're very excited about the fact their brand is building. Big brand. Sure. But the sales funnel starts under brand. So it's very easy to say, well, maybe I'll put that a cost aside while I actually focus on the sales funnel.
Yeah.
And what, just circling back to that primary and the secondary, it can be very enticing to actually do the things that I know, and yet the P&L isn't actually kind of working alongside because it's in your secondary.
But another thing that I've used myself, right, was when I was on a millionaire mindset with T. Harv Eker, right? Yeah. And he taught me the 8-jar, 7-jar. Well, I added an 8-jar in for VAT, but anyway, their principles. And I think even though if you have got something you want to pay off, you might extend it by 6 months or a year of the payment. But what he has is your fixed cost, your variable cost, but then he's got 10% tied to charity, 10% play. And that was the one that was like the hardest for me, because I'm such a saver that I would never spend money. But with that 10%, it made me spend it on a theatre ticket or whatever it is. So it made me make sure I was doing the entertainment side. But you've also got a 10% on personal development and learning. Completely. So therefore that might be books, it might be courses. So whatever you're getting in on a monthly basis, you split it accordingly across the jars. So you know that your bills are always paid, but you know that you're investing in charities, in yourself, in your entertainment, in all those types of things. So I think it might increase the time you might pay that debt off, but at least you're making sure you're developing at the same time, as you said, which is really important.
And Tina's just chipping in. So
Tina said, I always say, Tina's one of our lovely financial advisors. She's my finance advisor, so she's a great life planner. But she says, I always say to clients that the first step, particularly around running a business, is to achieve personal financial stability. This means having enough to pay the absolute minimum you need. This includes paying off the debt, which is what you were saying, Penny. So it's great.
But it's the first thing. Well, it's month 2 of our mastermind is I bring in a financial expert and with a cash flow template, and it's phenomenal the impact that has. And it is for me, I think what that changes is somebody who's purely living on the back of their primary skill. That turns them into a business person once they've got those numbers, and that becomes the linchpin for it. We can have all the fun and we can develop all the skills and we can work within our flow, but we have to accept that we are business people first and treat our business like that.
And one of the things that I know about you and being in your network for a long time, this is what I really honor about your money mindset, Penny, is that there are lots of, so there was discussions in our group actually thinking about it this week about swapping services. And you are one of those people that I've seen it in action, where people have gone to just energy and resource sap somebody without paying for them because they just think, can I just have an hour-long call for this? Can you just give me a free access to your course? And you had other people's backs in the community and gone, you need to pay. I'm happy to introduce you to that person, but you need to pay them for their time. And I think it's a really good standard that in the business cafe and all the groups that you run, it's a real honouring that people respect people's knowledge, expertise, and they have an energy exchange with a monetary exchange. Completely. Because it's really making sure that people are putting themselves first and getting paid for their work. Because we are a lot like you. We all love to serve and we love to over-deliver, but we get sapped into that, don't we?
There's also a receiving that happens when you energetically receive the money for a particular thing, that actually becomes an entity. It actually becomes something that increases your own confidence in the fact that money has exchanged for the thing that you have invested in, practiced, spent years learning. All of that expertise has been gained by you taking your time, energy, resources, and actually building that. So to receive for it is the acknowledgement of that. So I love that you're a stand for that.
And Andrea's just said she's just bought your Audible book, by the way.
Oh, that's lovely.
I want to hear more from this lovely lady. Thank you for making me think.
It's good.
I just want to continue that a bit as well, because the other thing is that we have the opportunity when we wake up in the morning that we go with this little ball and we plop ourselves into a pinball machine and we pull the trigger back, and we're all over the place, right? And
You must be watching me.
managing pace and keeping to a plan is the only thing that's going to keep you sane.
Yeah.
People that reach out and say, can I pick your brains and get something, or can you give me this skill? I think often it's a knee-jerk reaction to something they wish, oh God, I need to do that next. But if you have to pay for something, you actually put considered thought into it, you pace yourself through, you think about, will I have time to absorb that skill and put it into place? Or maybe I'll put that into next month or the month.
Yeah, I love that.
So, when you have to pay for something, it's far more valuable and it will have far more impact on your business.
Yeah, because it helps you make it. Yeah, it's exactly. So I know. Go on.
I'll have one more question. I know we're running really late, but one more question, because I think this is important, right? And it's a conversation that Penny we were having in the group, is that speakers, authors, and coaches are running their business a lot now without the personal touch.
Yeah.
So we've automated our emails. We're on social media where we're not always connecting, like having those deep, meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
And I know when I was in your group, the Business Cafe, you were talking about the mastermind group that you set up and how the difference was when you picked up the phone and started to phone people, right? So could you just, in a summary of this live, some practical tips that people can do that make their businesses more personal from all the things that we've spoken about? What would be your top things you would say would be practical that they could do?
Well, it's brilliant that you've brought that up, because it's been a big learning curve for me. I grew up in telesales. My first job at 19 was in telesales, and I grew up running big teams of telesales people. Then social media emerged and we've all disconnected in that way. And when I started the mastermind, there was no way I was going to be able to sell a £12,000 product over the year, £1,000 a month, without talking to someone. Important for me, not only were they selecting me, I was selecting them. So not only did they need to see whether or not I was going to have the impact, I need to see whether I could have impact on this person. Because to me, the accountability that I've moved them through, and by the time they've stopped working with me, their business has improved that much, is really important to me. So it became a phone call. But I was absolutely shite at this at the beginning. I talked all the time. I was rubbish at it. And then I started thinking, this is selling, and I've forgotten how to sell. I didn't think of it as a sales call.
Right.
I just thought of this as, I don't know what I was thinking of, but I was up my arse with not doing it.
You were just connecting. You were chatting.
I was chatting, but I was broadcasting how much all this great stuff I've got in my bag that I'm going to do, without actually. Anyway, I then decided, do you know Sandler training?
Yeah.
Yes, brilliant. So I went online and I did a test and I got 23%. And I thought, oh, it's brilliant. I'm now, so actually tomorrow I'm doing a 2-hour Sandler training course with Hannah. I'm assessing it because I'm going to bring a Sandler trainer in as one of our experts.
Awesome.
Right.
Because we bring in experts each month on different things. So the thing is that business is personal, and we can't just spontaneously phone call someone. That is hell. Phone goes and somebody's expecting to sell to you. Oh my God. So I think we have to ask permission. The book that I absolutely loved, that I read in 1997 before I started Ecademy and was one of the catalysts for it, that and Celestine Prophecy, was a book called Permission Marketing by Seth Godin.
Love it.
Oh,
he wrote that.
So good.
It's brilliant. And he wrote it before the internet, certainly before social media. And it's fantastic, building permission for somebody to buy from you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think we have to start getting back to talking to people on the phone, enabling them to build trust. But the other part of business is personal. You know, if we're flipping it on the head and it's not just about you personally, how you want to run the business, is that people will Google you and they will look you up and they will want to see that you've got credibility.
Yeah, that social footprint, basically, is
exactly. And I did a talk at Havas, which is the big advertising agency, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the Association of Advertising Standards was there.
Yeah.
You know, and they're constantly having to ban ads and sort out this influencer problem and everything. And I was the keynote that started it off, and I was talking about trust and transparency. And in it, I talked about how my vulnerabilities and sharing how crap I've been, which was the reality, has actually given birth to the most incredible business and relationship with people because they trust. And so whatever we do in automating our systems, if we're just broadcasting and we're not building trust in the conversation because we're not showing empathy, we're not listening, we're not properly engaging and having a conversation, we're just going to, again, keep repeating the same old stuff and getting a very small conversion rate.
Yeah, and that's the authenticity, right? Yeah. And I don't like that word because it's been buzzed around too much that people use it and they're not authentic. But it's that, I think, I go back to intention. And if you really care, if you think that whatever your product and services is really going to be able to help that person, then whether you're doing a phone call, whether you're sending an automation, as long as it's been not cookie cuttered and it's a personal approach and you've got the right intention, you can't really go wrong. If you're just thinking, I need to fill this place, I'm going to phone everybody on my list, you don't know them, you're just interrupting their dinner at 6 o'clock, you're going to piss people off, right? And there's the intention is bad.
Yeah, exactly. And our job is just to show up as who we be and actually broadcast from that place. And I don't mean broadcast in the way that you've been talking about, but simply the integrity of who we are at all times, so that if I met you 17 times, I pretty much know that I'm excited to go and see you because you show up as you every single time. And you know enough about me to say, oh my God, there's an exhibition in Paris that you must go and see, or whatever it is, because actually we have a connection.
We know about you, we know about your interests, we know not just what you want out of business, but if I see something and I tag it, you know, the lovely jewelry that you put up all the time, right? I'd know what to buy you, right? So it's all those types of things. Because we know you as a person and we care. And I think that's the feedback we got at the retreat last weekend. When we look at the video testimonials, they went, the reason we love this so much is because you guys really care about our business. You will help us go all that extra mile because sometimes we care a little bit more about it than they do. And that's the difference. We're not just a sausage factory in 2 days and then you're out again. We'll do the extra mile because we really want them to succeed. And I know that's exactly the same. Well, we know that with your profile, with the over delivering. But I really hope that people have got that from this live today. It's just about that intention. It's about doing it differently. It's about showing your vulnerability as well as knowing your key strengths. Because that's the bit that people are going to connect with. Like Andrea, I haven't read out all the comments, by the way, people have been going through, but there are so many people that are going, this is exactly, I'm resonating with you, I've been through that. So, you know, by telling those stories, people go, I'm going to buy this book, I need to hear from her. She's where I want to be. She's just 1 or 2 steps ahead of where I am, right?
And the invitation really is for people to resonate first and then check out. So, you know, we put the link to your mastermind in here, you know, because you're welcome, but it's because it's deserved, and it's that whole thing about how can we add value to the community that we care about. We bring in people that we care about. Exactly. And that's exactly it, because actually that does mean that business is personal, and it's so much more fun and nice as a result.
Makes it a much lovelier business for you to have. You know, we are in phenomenally beautiful times. You know, we are, so, you know, I talked about the silent generation, and I'm the baby boomer generation, and then we've got this millennial generation that 50% of the workforce next year will be in that generation, and their whole need for a better world is really coming through, and that trust and transparency is really key to them. and their definition of wealth and success is very different to certainly the silent generation and the influences that my generation had from them. And this is a beautiful time to really stand up and be yourself and have your impact and build good people around you. It's the right time.
Well, we are delighted that you're in our world.
Yes,
and
we
thank
are.
you on behalf of everybody that is watching currently,
really
or people that have like watched, you know, in 3 months, 4 months, a year's time, which is great.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Well,
let's buy your book at 99p, because it's an awesome read, and it will definitely give people a lot of insight into that new way of doing business.
And of course, as soon as you have your little TEDx that's actually filmed and everything, then in the Connection Hub, in supporting resources, let us watch it.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's very kind. I'll have to make sure it's decent before I do that, though.
As we all do.
It will be.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Lovely way to spend lunch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hold on.